racist bank teller mocks a disabled man, but his response will leave you shocked. Marcus had seen things, terrible things, that no man should ever witness. The war had changed him. It took his leg and part of his spirit, leaving behind hollow echoes of courage that rarely broke the surface. He was a ghost in his own small town, where whispers of his disability hung around him like a dark cloud. But he fought on, day by day, trying to fit into a world that felt foreign after years of serving his country. And then came that fateful day at the bank. The air was thick with tension as Marcus rolled his wheelchair toward the counter. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a sterile glow on the sterile environment. He kept his head down, focused on the task at hand. He needed to deposit a check, nothing fancy. But as he approached the counter, the bank teller, Greg, looked up. Marcus had never been one for confrontation, but Greg's disdain was impossible to ignore. "What? Did you roll in here for a free handout?" Greg sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. Gasps floated around the room like startled birds, like tidal waves, forcing him to wrestle with emotions he had buried deep. He clenched his fists, nails digging into his palms, the urge for violent retaliation creeping in, the urge to show Greg the real fight he was made of. "You don't know anything about me," Marcus managed to croak out, his heart racing. Greg's smirk faltered, but only for a moment. The other customers stood frozen, eyes wide as they bore witness to the confrontation. It was as if time itself had paused, waiting for the next move. "You're just a crippled coward," Greg spat, his words sharp as knives. The tension thickened. Marcus felt like he was about to explode. Years of pent-up anger threatened to spill over. Something primal stirred inside him, igniting that old soldier's fire. But just as he was about to respond with words sharp enough to cut, something deep inside him shifted. The walls of resentment and despair crumbled. "Your father," Marcus said, voice steady now, drawing from a place he had not anticipated. "He was in my unit, fighting for this country. He was a hero." The room fell silent as the weight of the revelation settled in. Greg's face turned pale. The bravado slipped away like sand through fingers. For the first time, Marcus saw vulnerability flash across his features. Pain. Confusion. Suddenly their worlds collided in an unexpected storm of shared experiences. The battlefields, the sacrifice, the unrecognized connection. The customers exchanged looks, a murmur passing between them. How could a man so hateful be connected to someone who bore the scars of war? It wasn't just Marcus fighting for his dignity. It was Greg grappling with a legacy he didn't understand. Would he choose to confront it, or let hatred continue its cruel cycle? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without any notice. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, from which city are you watching? I love getting to know every incredible person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The room was charged, a silence that felt electric. Marcus watched Greg's face drain of colour as reality hit. Everyone else stayed frozen in disbelief, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Greg's sneer faded, replaced by confusion, his eyes darting around as if seeking escape from the unexpected weight of Marcus's words. But then, wild-eyed and dishevelled, clutching a crumpled paper in one hand. The person was a young man, maybe in his 20s, with matted hair and stained clothes. Sweat glistened on his forehead, as if he had run a marathon. "Help! Someone help!" he shouted, his voice rasping like gravel. Panic flooded the room, eyes darting back to the newcomer. "It's him! They're coming!" the young man shouted, his chest heaving as he staggered toward the nearest counter. The customers gasped, and for a moment there was a shared sense of fear gripping every heart. "What are you talking about?" Greg asked, his bravado from a moment before evaporating. The young man fixed his gaze on Marcus, his eyes wide with a mixture of desperation and horror. "You don't understand. They know what you did. They'll come for you too. Aha!" Questions filled the air, Greg's cheeks flushed with both anger and confusion, the standoff suddenly overshadowed by a new threat. "Someone call the cops!" a woman cried, her hands trembling as she took out her phone. "No!" the young man pleaded, stepping closer to Marcus. "You don't want to get them involved. Trust me! You need to leave! Now!" The words hung in the air, thick with urgency. Marcus felt something like ice grip his insides, a flash of terror weaving through his veins. What did the man know? What had happened in his past that threatened him now? Greg took a step back, his sneer now replaced by uncertainty. "Who the hell are you?" he spat, trying to reclaim some of the control he had lost. The young man shook his head frantically. "You aren't safe here. I saw them. I saw what they did." Suddenly, sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Marcus felt a rush of panic surge within him. He had fought on battlefields, but this was different. This felt personal. A danger he couldn't comprehend. "Your father!" The young man turned back to Marcus. Desperation. "Freeze!" All eyes turned toward Marcus, the weight of their gazes suffocating. He felt the world tilt on its axis, every whisper of doubt and fear crashing over him like a tidal wave. What did that mean? He had always thought his father had fought for righteousness, for freedom, not for shadows lurking behind every act of bravery. "What do you mean?" Marcus demanded, his voice tight with emotion. But the young man opened his mouth to respond, and before any words could escape, the glass door swung violently open again. Figures cloaked in from a corner, and Marcus could almost feel the walls of reality close in around him. Everything he thought he knew shattered into pieces, like fragile glass, leaving them suspended in a moment filled with uncertainty. Would he confront a past he never knew? Would Greg stand with him, or unravel under the weight of his own choices? And as the sirens wailed closer, one horrifying question lingered. Had Marcus truly been a soldier, or just glanced at Greg, whose face had drained completely of colour? Panic flared in the room, an invisible current binding everyone in a spell of uncertainty. The tension was thick enough to slice through. "What do you want?" Marcus managed to ask, his voice shaking but firm. The words felt like stones rolling off his tongue. heavy with fear and urgency. He shifted in his wheelchair, instincts kicking in. The figures stared, silent, unmoving, as if watching a scene unfold that they had not anticipated. The young weight in the air. If anything could shatter the moment, it was that. Greg's eyes widened. "My dad?" he sputtered, confusion etched across his features. "What are you talking about?" The chill deepened, a whispered tension crawling under everyone's skin. The cloaked figures didn't break their silence, but one stepped forward, the silhouette illuminated by the stark bank lights. The air turned electric. "I know what he did," the figure said, voice coarse and haunting. The room held its breath. "I know the truth that keeps him up at night." Marcus's heart raced. He could feel every heartbeat thunder in his ears. Was this about his father? What was he hiding? "You're lying!" Marcus barked, but doubt flickered like a candle. Flame in the wind. The soldier in him fought against the tide of confusion, threatening to sweep him away. The figure reached up slowly, pulling back the hood of their cloak. A familiar face emerged, one he hadn't seen in years, but would recognize anywhere. "I came to find you, Marcus, to warn you." "Ryan?" Marcus gasped, breath catching in his throat. Ryan had been his closest friend in the war, a brother in arms, but he had vanished without a trace after they returned home. "What are you doing here?" But Ryan's eyes were filled with urgency. "Your father isn't who you think he is. You need to know. He was part of something much darker than a patriot's fight." Suddenly, Greg's expression shifted, revelation dawning. "What do you mean? What did he do?" Ryan looked at Greg, sadness pooling in his gaze. "It's not just that he fought. He was complicit in actions that shouldn't have happened. Things hidden from you both. Lives were lost in ways you can't begin to imagine. And they will come for you, Marcus, for the legacy he left behind." Gasps echoed around the bank, voices murmuring in disbelief. Marcus felt ice grip his chest. Erupted. People screamed and scrambled, bodies collided, and Marcus struggled to steady himself. "Marcus!" Ryan yelled above the din, fear etched across his face. "You have to trust me! It's not over! They'll come for all of us if we don't leave now!" Marcus's heart raced as he processed the chaos unfolding before him. Everything he thought he knew swirled into a tempest of doubt. He looked at Greg, who was white as a ghost. Realization hitting him like a punch. Fear trembled in the air, twisting the familiar into the unknown. "Who can we trust?" Greg's voice was barely above a whisper, his earlier bravado gone entirely. Marcus turned to Ryan, questions burning behind his eyes. The sirens were closing in, but the real chase had only just begun. What had his father been a part of? And was Marcus truly safe anywhere? Especially with new enemies lurking in the shadows. As confusion and fear tightened around him, one thought gnawed at the edges of his mind. If his father wasn't the hero he'd believed him to be, then who was he really? And as they prepared to escape the chaos, Marcus knew one thing for certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. Marcus felt the weight of the world pressing down on him, thoughts racing as the chaos swirled around him. His heart thundered in his chest, pounding like the drums of war. "What do you mean?" he repeated, desperation sharpening his voice. Ryan's eyes were wild with urgency. "You don't even know the half of it. Your father was involved with an organization. They've done things, terrible things." Before Marcus could absorb that, a loud crash echoed through the bank. The front glass door shattered inward, sending glinting shards scattering like stars across the floor. A figure rushed in, armored and menacing, eyes stark with purpose. "Get down!" the figure barked, voice slicing through the panic. Panic rippled through the crowd as people stumbled backward. The young man who had warned Marcus fell to the floor, trembling, while Greg's expression morphed from confusion to sheer terror. "Ah!" the armored figure commanded, leveling a weapon at Marcus. It felt surreal. Would they really shoot here? In a bank? But Marcus could see the danger in their eyes. "If you know what's good for you, you'll get out of this mess now. They're after the truth." Marcus fought to breathe, thoughts colliding in a whirlwind. The truth? What truth? Had his life really been a lie? That's when the armored figure stepped forward into the light, revealing a face he recognized all too well, his own. The room fell silent, shock hanging thick in the air. It was like staring into a mirror, except this reflection wore a steel of authority that made Marcus's skin crawl. "You're me!" Marcus stumbled over the words. "What's happening?" "No," Ryan said hurriedly, stepping in front of Marcus, eyes darting between the two men. "This cannot be real. How is this even possible? Listen to me, both of you. I'm from a future you can't even begin to imagine," the armored Marcus said, urgency spilling over. "The mistakes you make today, they will haunt us both. Time is unraveling because of your father's choices." Gasps reverberated through the crowd, horror etched on every face. It felt like a nightmare, wrapping tighter and tighter. Marcus could barely process the revelation. "What are you saying? How can you be here?" The armored figure glanced at the entrance, sensing the approaching sirens. "You need to understand. There are forces at play. Things far beyond your understanding. They won't stop until they erase everything related to the files your father buried. I'm here to stop that, to save you." Marcus felt his throat tighten, confusion mixed with a sharp fear. Who was he supposed to trust? His father? A stranger who looked like him? The moment hung, electrified and volatile. "Your life hinges on the choices you make right now," the armored Marcus continued, stepping closer. "You must run! If they find you here, we are all doomed!" Before he could react, a loud explosion rocked the bank. The noise rang in Marcus's ears, forcing everyone to drop to the ground, and fear melded into chaos, and Marcus felt his thoughts scatter once again. In the midst of the turmoil, Greg screamed, "Is this really happening?" The armored figure shot a glance at Marcus, eyes fierce. "You have to trust me! Your identity is all that stands between us and total destruction." The gravity of those words weighed heavily. Marcus's heart raced as he processed the enormity of the situation. Could he really trust this man? Was he simply looking at the dark reflection of what he could become? And as sirens blared closer, Marcus felt a twist in his gut. This was bigger than he'd ever imagined, had been searching for, had just grown darker and far more complicated. Would he embrace it? Or would the past swallow him whole? The answers danced just out of reach. glimmers of light in a rapidly closing tunnel. Marcus felt the air shift, charged and thick. The weight of Ryan's revelation hung between them, like a dark cloud ready to burst. Then, with the explosion still ringing in his ears, he felt the chaos all around him. People were screaming and running, panic fracturing the crowd like shattered glass. "Get down!" the armoured Marcus yelled again as he pointed his weapon, the barrel aimed at the cloaked figures. But they showed no sign of retreating. The urgency was palpable, every heartbeat echoing louder than the last. "Why now?" Marcus shouted, desperation creeping into his voice. "Why are you telling me any of this?" His mind raced, confusion and anger intertwining. But before Ryan could respond, a piercing scream cut through the din. A woman's voice, unmistakably familiar. "Marcus! Marcus! Help!" Marcus whipped around, horrified to see his mother. Her face pale and drawn, emerging from the chaos. She stumbled into the bank, looking dishevelled and terrified, clutching her phone like a lifeline. The sight struck him like a punch to the gut. "Mom, what are you doing here?" he shouted. But the fear in her eyes spoke louder than words. "Marcus, I've been looking for you. You have to run. They're after you." She rushed toward him, and suddenly the world narrowed down to her. The chaos beyond, a distant storm. "What do you mean?" He reached out, panic rising within him like a tide. "The truth about your father," she began, but before she could finish, the room erupted in violence. The cloaked figures, previously frozen, rushed forward. A flash of movement, and one lunged at Ryan, grabbing him by the collar, their intent clear in their cold eyes. "Stop!" Marcus yelled, reaching out, but it felt like time had slowed. Then, in a horrifying jolt, his mother bore a grim expression. "Told you!" But before she could elaborate, the armoured version of Marcus spoke, his voice rising above the clamour. "No! Don't! They will use her against you!" Marcus felt adrenaline surge, thoughts racing. "What are you talking about?" The armoured figure's eyes narrowed. "Your mother. She's connected to what's happening. They see her as the key, if they capture her." "No!" Marcus shouted, the wall of dread crashing around him. He couldn't believe it. The shadows of the hood peeled away, revealing not just any face, but his mother's face, only younger, fierce, and unyielding. A collective gasp rose. "What?" Marcus stumbled back, heat rising in his face. "This isn't possible." The room crackled with tension, disbelief echoing through the crowd. It was too much, the rage and hurt surfacing, leaving Marcus reeling. "Your father." The younger version of his mother smiled coldly, accentuating the moment with chilling finality. He wasn't just a soldier, he was ours to control. The clarity struck Marcus like lightning. He looked at Ryan. Father's hands? It was never about honor. It was about power. "No, you can't be serious." An icy doubt threaded into Marcus's heart. And as the armoured Marcus stepped forward, holding the real Marcus's gaze, a painful truth unfurled. "This isn't just about you anymore. They'll erase everything unless we take control back. You have to choose. Who will you trust?" The air stilled, tension hanging heavy. The question loomed, pulsating in the chaos. Would he confront a past wrapped in shadows? Would he fight alongside the mother he thought he knew, or against her? Everything he believed nosedived into uncertainty. And just as the world dimmed, the ground beneath shifted. "Run!" Ryan shouted, breaking Marcus's trance. But he felt the gravity pulling him away from the escape. Because now it was more than just his life on the line. It was everything and everyone. And as the sirens wailed again, the truth whispered louder. None of them were safe. Marcus felt the air shift, charged and thick. The weight of Ryan's revelation hung between them, like a dark cloud ready to burst. Then, with the explosion still ringing in his ears, he felt the chaos all around him. People were screaming and running, panic fracturing the crowd like shattered glass. "Get down!" the armored Marcus yelled again, as he pointed his weapon, the barrel aimed at the cloaked figures. But they showed no sign of retreating. The urgency was palpable, every heartbeat echoing, louder than the last. "Why now?" Marcus shouted, desperation creeping into his voice. Ryan's eyes were wild with urgency. "You don't even know the half of it. Your father was involved with an organization. They've done things, terrible things." Before Marcus could absorb that, a loud crash echoed through the bank. The front glass door shattered inward, sending glinting shards scattering like stars across the floor. A figure rushed in, armored and menacing, eyes stark with purpose. "Get down!" the figure barked, voice slicing through the panic. Panic rippled through the crowd as people stumbled backward. The young man who had warned Marcus fell to the floor, trembling, while Greg's expression morphed from confusion to sheer terror. "What's happening? Why are they here?" Greg shouted, frantically looking for answers. "Stay where you are," the armored figure commanded, leveling a weapon at Marcus. It felt surreal. Would they really shoot here? In a bank? But Marcus could see the danger in their eyes. "If you know what's good for you, you'll get out of this mess now. They're after the truth." Marcus fought to breathe, thoughts racing. The truth? What truth? Had his life really been a lie? That's when the armored figure stepped forward into the light, revealing a face he recognized all too well. His own. The room fell silent, shock hanging thick in the air. It was like staring into a mirror, except this reflection wore a steel of authority. That made Marcus's skin crawl. "You're me!" Marcus stumbled over the words. "What's happening?" "No," Ryan said hurriedly, stepping in front of Marcus, eyes darting between the two men. "This cannot be real. How is this even possible?" "Listen to me, both of you. I'm from a future you can't even begin to imagine," the armored Marcus said, urgency spilling over. "The mistakes you make today, they will haunt us both. Time is unraveling because of your father's choices." And fear burst through the door, weapon drawn. "Get back," he shouted. Chaos erupted. People screamed and scrambled, bodies collided, and Marcus struggled to steady himself. "Marcus!" Ryan yelled above the din, fear etched across his face. "You have to trust me! It's not over! They'll come for all of us if we don't leave! Now!" But just then, the younger version of his mother abruptly stepped forward, her face twisting into a knowing smirk. "You think you can escape the consequences of your father's actions? They go deeper than you realize." "What are you talking about?" Marcus felt a lump forming in his throat, each word heavy with dread. Her eyes sparkled with something darker. I never revealed everything, did I? Your father wasn't just involved, he orchestrated it! All of it! Gasps echoed, disbelief washing over the crowd. Marcus's mind raced. Pieces of a picture he never wanted to see splattering painfully together. What do you mean? What did he do? The organization! It was built on blood, on betrayal. And you, Marcus, are the key to unleashing it all, or destroying it. Suddenly the armored Marcus flinched, his expression turning to shock. No, you can't do this! And just as Marcus's heart sank, a blinding light erupted from the corner of the bank. It felt like the sun had exploded inside the building. Screams filled the air as the crowd pressed backward like waves crashing against the shore. When the brightness faded, a large figure stood where the light had been. Metallic, yet human-like, dressed in a skin-tight suit that shimmered in a kaleidoscope of colours. It turned its head slowly, fixing its gaze on Marcus. I am the embodiment of the choices made across timelines, it announced, voice echoing as if from everywhere. Your father's legacy extends further than anyone realizes, and you must choose your path now. The room froze in terror. Marcus's blood ran cold. Who was this thing? What did it mean? Make your choice, it commanded, voice booming. Was this a chance for redemption or damnation? The truth about his father and his own identity loomed like a storm ready to break. Whirlwind. As everything exploded around him, one thought pounded in his mind. What path would he choose? A step forward and everything might change forever. And then, just as the armored version of himself reached out, darkness swept over them, sealing the moment in uncertainty. There was no going back now. Marcus blinked as the world swirled around him. The armored figure's voice still echoed, a haunting reminder of the choice he faced. But before he could utter a word, before he could even grasp the looming danger, a sudden anomaly cracked through the tension like thunder. The ground beneath his wheelchair trembled, a violent shake that knocked everyone off balance. The light flickered, and chaos, blinding flash shot across the room, illuminating faces twisted in shock and fear. Someone screamed. In the center of the room, the air warped and shimmered. Out of nowhere, a rift opened, jagged and pulsating, a swirling void that looked hungry and vast. It drew everyone's gaze, a dark maw waiting to consume them. Gasps filled the air. The crowd paralyzed in awe and horror. Then, out of the rift, a figure emerged, tall and fierce, with movements that were both fluid and unsettling. It felt unreal, like a shadow brought to life. The crowd recoiled, breaths hitching in unison. Marcus squinted. The figure was draped in a dark cloak, just like the authority, a palpable power. In a moment, the figure threw back the hood, revealing a face that made Marcus's heart plummet. It was his father, but not the man he remembered with bittersweet nostalgia. This version of his father looked younger, harder, with a coldness in his eyes that chilled Marcus to his core. Marcus, the younger version of his father announced, voice deep and resonant. It's time you understand the true nature of our legacy." "No, it can't be," Marcus gasped, the lump in his throat tightening painfully. "Your reality is a lie," his father continued, stepping forward as if the rift itself revolved around him. "You've been chasing shadows while the real game your comprehension." Around him, the crowd gasped, murmurs ricocheting off the bank walls. They had been pulled into something monumental, drama unfolding like a Greek tragedy. This wasn't just about family secrets anymore. It was cosmic, larger than life. "Why are you here?" Marcus demanded, both anger and betrayal slicing through him. "What do you know?" His father's gaze bore into him. "I came to warn you, to make you see the truth. Are those secrets buried for a reason?" The armored version of Marcus stepped forward, desperation etched in their features. "This is about more than just family. They'll stop at nothing to silence us. You must choose." In that instant, everything snapped into focus. The rift behind them flickered ominously, pulsating with a sinister energy. It seemed alive, as if it were feeding off their fears. And just like that, amidst the chaos, a thought crossed Marcus's mind. He had been asking the wrong questions. "I want to know why," Marcus shouted, his voice rising above the panic, breaking through the layers of deceit. "Why should I believe anything you're saying? Why should I trust you?" But before anyone could answer, his mother shot forward. The atmosphere turned electric as she squared her shoulders, eyes filled with fire. "Because, Marcus," she said, voice firm and unwavering, "there are even darker truths you don't yet know. Your father's choices were to protect a greater secret, the one that could change everything." The revelation rocked him, a dizzying whirlpool of disbelief. Just as he thought he was unraveling the threads of his past, the very fabric of his identity began to fray. It wasn't just about the legacy of his father, or the shadowy figures. There was something deeper, more insidious, lurking beneath the surface. Before Marcus could digest this whirlwind of colour and light that cascaded toward them, blinding and beautiful, but laced with treachery. The armed Marcus raised his weapon, ready to fight, but the light consumed all in its grasp, snatching at everything familiar, wrapping the room in an ellipse of chaos. As the intricacy of betrayal unfolded around him, Marcus felt the pull of uncertainty. With every heartbeat, every breath, the weight of revelation settled heavily upon his shoulders. This moment would alter everything. And as the light engulfed him, clawing at his sanity, the question remained: who could he trust in a reality where the past twisted and turned like a dark reflection in a mirror? The light spun around them, blinding and forceful, feeling a thick tension grip his chest as the armored version of himself warned them about the truth. Voices clamored, thoughts raced, and the rift behind them pulsed with a strange energy, almost alive. Just as he began to process the chaos, a sudden and piercing scream erupted from the darkness. "Help! No!" The voice was unmistakable. His mother. Panic surged through him. He whipped around, heart pounding. She was at the edge of the rift, clutching the fabric of the world itself, her face twisted in fear. The younger version of his mother vanished from sight, swallowed by the chaos. "Mum!" Marcus shouted, rolling forward, but she was slipping away. The light grew brighter, and for a moment, it felt like time itself was twisting. "Marcus, please," she cried out, tears spilling down her cheeks. Her voice shattered through the noise, making everything else fade into a distant hum. The armored Marcus stepped forward, panic flickering across his face. "We have to save her now!" But just as they moved, the cloaked figures surged forward, blocking their path. Their dark forms loomed, casting shadows over everything, and Marcus felt a surge of fear crawl up his spine. "Back!" Ryan shouted, trying to push them away, but they wouldn't budge. "Marcus!" his mother wailed, her voice breaking. "Don't trust—" But before she could finish, the rift flared, and a bolt of energy shot through the air, striking the younger figure of Marcus, sending him flying backward. The impact was a silent explosion, knocking everyone off balance. The sounds of terror echoed as confusion engulfed the crowd. A desperate cacophony of screams and cries of alarm. In the chaos, Marcus felt something shift within him. A terrifying realization washed over him. What if? Then, just as quickly as it began, the light dimmed, revealing a shocking truth. As the chaos settled, the cloned figures stepped back, scar running down his cheek, eyes filled with unresolved rage and a vulnerability Marcus had never seen before. "Time runs differently here," he said, voice jagged, "and you've been led to believe lies upon lies." Every ounce of Marcus's anger boiled over. You were behind this? Why? Why would you do this to us?" His father's expression hardened. "I had to protect you from the real enemy, the ones behind those figures. The organization. It was never about freedom, but control. They wanted you, Marcus." The truth slammed into Marcus, taking the breath right out of his lungs. "What do you mean, me?" "I'm not your biological father," the figure revealed, and the words ignited a firestorm of emotions in Marcus. "They used you to manipulate me." Shock crashed over him like a wave, leaving only confusion and heartbreak in its wake. He stumbled, trying to process the weight of those words. All the moments they shared, every laugh and tear. Those memories felt tainted now, fragmenting like old glass shattering on the ground. "What?" was all he could manage to sputter out. But before he could demand more answers, the cloaked figures lunged forward again. The rift behind them surged, and the energy peaked, unleashing a powerful surge that sent them sprawling. Bodies thudded against the cold floor, chaos erupting once more. And within that swirling maelstrom, amid the cries and the shifting shadows, Marcus grappled with his world turned upside down. His father, not his father. Lies spun through his mind, tangled like a frayed knot. As the room swirled, he could feel the pull of the rift threatening to consume everything. Time, identity, family, it all spiraled into a whirlpool of uncertainty. "Get out, Marcus! You have to believe me!" the older figure shouted through the storm, the urgency in his voice slicing through Marcus's confusion. Would he flee into the unknown or face the dark truth head on? As the chaos continued to envelop them, the only thing he could feel and confusion. Marcus's heart raced as he faced his father's older self, racing thoughts colliding against one another in a whirlwind of emotions. "You're lying!" he shouted, his voice thick with disbelief. But the energy from the rift pulsated around them, filling the air with a strange tension. His father's gaze held Marcus captive for a moment longer. "You need to listen. Those figures, they represent the past that doesn't want to die. The truth that will destroy us all." Marcus willed his mind to comprehend, grappling with the weight of revelation. But just then, the ground shook again, sharp tremors echoing through the walls. A low rumble filled the air. Suddenly, with a violent crack, the glass ceiling shattered above them, raining shards like brilliant diamonds. Shouts erupted, and the crowd panicked, scrambling for safety. Marcus flinched, but kept his focus on his father. "Get down!" his father barked, shielding Marcus with his body. Ryan lunged to protect Marcus, but then a shadow surged from the rift. It twisted and warped, lunging forward with terrifying speed. The armored version of Marcus stepped in front, weapon raised. But it was too late. With a blinding flash, swirling mass of colors that felt alive, panic sunk in. What just happened? He spun around, heart pounding. "Welcome," a voice echoed through the emptiness. It was unfamiliar, yet comforting. Startled, Marcus squinted into the mist. A figure emerged, this one gentler, almost ethereal. "Who are you?" he demanded, throat tight. "Your guide," the figure replied softly. "I'm here to help you understand the truth." Marcus's heart raced again, pounding louder in his chest. "What truth?" "The truth about your existence and the balance of all realities. You see, the older version of your father, he created this confusion. He manipulated time, shaping your life as a shadow." Marcus felt a jolt, ice filling his veins. "What do you mean? How could he manipulate time? Every choice creates ripples in existence. Your father's choices were not born from duty, but fear. He was part of a pact he never intended to make. And you, my child, are the key." The word key ricocheted in his mind. "No, I can't be. What does that even mean?" In that moment, memories began to flood him. Not his own, but fragments of others. Faces, emotions, echoing laughter, dark secrets woven into their very fabric. A hollow feeling set deep in his chest. "Is this real?" "Yes," the figure assured. "You have the power to change everything," breaking him apart from within. His father had hidden the truth, but the truth was even darker and more twisted than he'd ever suspected. Suddenly, darkness surged again, but this time it felt different, intensified, alive with energy, not just from the rift, but from somewhere else. A shadow stretched across the void, taking on a form that was achingly familiar. The figure solidified, revealing the younger version of his mother. But her eyes were consumed by shadows. She smiled, but it wasn't the smile Marcus remembered. "Did you think you could escape this, Marcus? You belong here, with us." Shock pierced through. "You, I can lay it all bare," she said, gliding closer. "You are not alone in this. Join us, and together we will reclaim what's ours." In that moment, Marcus's breath caught. Was this a trap? Would he join with them, or would he break free and forge his own path? The weight of this decision bore down as shadows flickered around him, the choice between light and dark lingering heavily. And as the darkness pulsed, a chilling realization struck him. There had always been more than one secret, more than one deception. What lay ahead was uncertainty, and the weight, mother, dread pooling in his stomach. "You don't understand," he said, voice shaking. "This isn't who you are, isn't it?" Her expression hardened, shadows flicking across her face. "This is just the beginning. You've always asked for the truth, but the truth comes with pain." What pain? Marcus felt the burn in his chest. He had fought too long to let this moment slip away. "What do you want from me? This world is built on the foundation of choices and blood. You're the link we need to control it all," she replied, stretching out her hand, warmth meeting coldness. "Enough!" boomed the older figure of his father. "Don't let her deceive you. They're only using you to further their agenda." The air felt electric, charged with their emotions. Marcus could feel everyone around him pulling away into hushed murmurs. Panic spread through the crowd as they exchanged glances, hearts racing in sync with Marcus's own. "What do I do?" he shouted, desperation ringing through his voice. "Choose!" his father cried, stepping closer to him. "You can break the cycle. Fight for your own path, or let her drag you into darkness." Marcus's breath caught, a lump forming in his throat. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about the fate of everything he knew. Moments flashed before him. Laughter, love, warmth of family. But tinged eyes. "Trust me," she urged softly, stepping forward. "Together, we could control everything. Shape it into whatever we want." "Marcus, please!" Ryan, with a shaky voice, took a step toward him. "You're more than just this fight. You've always been more." The swirling shadows grew thicker, almost pulsing like a heartbeat. The younger version of Marcus struggled against the tide, his face a mask of disbelief. "You have to decide now." "No!" Marcus roared, his voice echoing through the void. It felt liberating, a break from the chains holding him back, tearing through his confusion. "I choose my own path." His declaration rippled through the darkness, striking like lightning. The ground shook violently, winds howling as the rift began to tremble. The faces around him shifted in disbelief, gasps bouncing around the air. His mother falteringly pulled back, eyes wide. "No," she cried, panic in her voice. "You can't do this." But Marcus stood firm, shaking off fear. "I won't let your darkness define me. I refuse." In an instant, light burst from within, blinding and powerful. The waves of energy rolled through, enveloping everyone. With a fierce determination, Marcus felt the threads of reality merging and reshaping around him. Then darkness enveloped him, but now it was different. An embrace, a release. He could feel vast, open field. No shadows loomed. Only gentle breezes and warm sunshine greeted him. "Did work," he whispered to himself, panic squeezing at his chest. With trembling hands, he stood, feeling the ground beneath him, solid and reassuring. "Hello?" he called out. hope fluttering in his chest. But silence answered back. Marcus closed his eyes. Perhaps this was the end of chaos. Or maybe the beginning of healing. As he took a step forward, the lingering question hung in the air. Had he truly severed the ties of darkness? Or would shadows always linger just out of view? And as he pondered this uncertainty, a soft voice whispered on the wind, "You are never alone." A final surge of strength pushed him onward, uncertainty mingling with hope. Where would this path lead? Only time would tell. If you've come this far, I need to tell you something important. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories that are ready to explode. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep us flying high. And don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this outcome. Flood the comment section with your reactions and wild theories about what just went down. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel with these actions. Let's make this community stronger together.